Fleabag, if you hit the pig whistle there, we'll get this show on the road. What? Oh, golden finger. Thank you. That means we're already rolling. Love it. Love it. All right. Welcome to Monday and the dawn of a new beginning. From Hollywood, it's the world-famous Mojo Elliott, ready to roll with another action-packed adventure of the Rat's Ass Podcast. Thanks for stopping by. Can you feel it in the air? The dawn of a new beginning is here. The Rat's Ass Podcast has a brand new website. We launched it on Saturday. Have you seen it yet? Oh, it's a ting of beauty. It's a ting of beauty, Rock. It's a ting of beauty. But you can listen to the podcast, read the blog, connect with us on the socials. That's about it. Read about the show. But I wanted to do a website. I know they're considered old-fashioned, but here's why. Is that there are so many podcasts out there on apps that when you go searching for the Rat's Ass Podcast, you might land on the wrong one. And then I get associated with that podcast. And if they're morons, I don't want that. So I decided to do a website where if you just remember, and you can bookmark it, ratsasspodcast.com, that's all you need. Everything you need, nothing you don't on this website. It's a pretty simple website. We also added a chat box, too, that you can reach out to us on. That's a pretty cool feature. I think you'll like that, too. As you're listening, you can chat with us. And I'll get back to you ASAP. Hey, the inauguration is today with President Trump. He's going to be sworn in. I love that. We're going to swear him in. You always picture a bunch of people swearing at him when he's somebody actually puts his hand on the Bible and swears in that he's going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help him God. Well, we'll see. How many people have touched that Bible like Joe Biden? Said they were going to uphold the Constitution. And then old Joe opened the border immediately and said, y'all come. 10 million people come running across the border, wreaking havoc on the United States of America. 4 years later, it got him voted out of office. Yes, it did. Well, Kamala Harris, because they tried to install her. But Trump takes over today, and it's interesting that these same petty Democrats were complaining that Donald Trump moved the ceremony inside because of the freezing temperatures in Washington, D.C. All the memes were up about how Obama did it in, sub-degree temperatures and so on and so forth. Different people have done it. Ronald Reagan in 1985 moved the ceremony inside as well. So, these same petty Democrats, they're all going to benefit from the Trump presidency, and they'll be more than happy to take the windfall, the money, the, better lifestyle, the freedom. They'll continue to bitch, because that's what they do. Hey, all right, I bitched about Biden, too, so we're all the same. We bitch about whoever we don't like in the White House. But nonetheless, today is Inauguration Day. It is also MLK Day, Martin Luther King Day. I don't know why we celebrate this. Back in 1963, he did the I Have a Dream speech. And here we are about 62 years later, and you look around and you read what that speech was about, and you say, do you think people listened? Do you think people listened? Go Google the speech, I Had a Dream. Read it, and you tell me if you think Americans paid attention to his speech. Joe Biden's last act of presidency, he pardoned Dr. Fauci, Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, General Mike Milley, and the folks associated with the J6. Nothing says guilty quite like a presidential pardon. Of course, Joe Biden said, just because I'm pardoning these people doesn't mean they did anything wrong. Bullshitsky. Bullshitsky. We just put a big bullshit on that one. So that's what's happened the last 24 hours while you slept. So now you're up to date. Oh, by the way, TikTok is back. TikTok was gone for a few hours. And by the way, we're up to, I think it's about 70 followers that we need to be able to go live on TikTok. I'm not saying we will go live, but we will have the luxury of doing so if we want to. So, but I'm not one to go on and beg for followers. If you want to follow the Rat's Ass Podcast, great. If you don't, I don't give a rat's ass. But we're about 70 people away from going live on TikTok. But it disappeared for a few hours on Sunday, and then it came back. And of course, you get the usual people. It was a public relations stunt. It was a PR stunt. No, it wasn't a public relations stunt. I know it might have looked that way, but no, it wasn't. It was all legal-like and everything. But Trump came out, made a statement saying that he was going to sign an extension so that it wouldn't go down. And, there's a lot of people who make their living off of TikTok. And he recognized that fact. And like we said last week, he has a soft spot for TikTok all of a sudden because he got a lot of votes from TikTok. But it's back, and, these folks who are calling it a PR stunt, Jesus Christ. You got your frickin' TikTok back, you rat bastards. What are you complaining about? All right, did you watch some football yesterday and Saturday? Detroit, what the hell? What the hell? Washington kicked Detroit's ass. Nobody saw this coming. I'm telling you, Vegas got rich on Saturday when Detroit went down. Nobody saw that one coming. So here's who we have in the finals. Buffalo versus Kansas City, Washington, and Philadelphia. I can't think of 4 teams that make me want to go bowling on Super Bowl Sunday than those 4. Tonight we got the NCAA championship game. Don't forget about that. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I have no skin in this game, but I will never root for Ohio State. Personal reasons that I'll share with you at another time. But they play Notre Dame tonight. I'll be rooting for the Fighting Irish, but I have no skin in the game. But every time Ohio State loses, I moonwalk, baby. I moonwalk. All right, who's ready for some loose behavior? You know what to do. Pull up your damn pants. Let's see what's happening on the Rat's Ass Podcast X feed. All right, this is where we choose an interesting post on X and share a few comments just to get us warmed up. And since today is Inauguration Day, Game Time Politics posted this one with over 133,000 respondents. And the question was, who is the most unlikable politician? Here are the top 5. It was a tie at number 5 with Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. Again, 2 guys older than dirt that should be retired right now. Number 4 was Kamala Harris. Number 3, Joe Biden. Biden at number 3. You would think he was number 1. No. Number 2, Nancy Pelosi. And number 1, the most unlikable politician, California slumlord Governor Gavin Newsom. That's right, the good governor who basically is burning California down right now. At least that's the reputation that he's getting. And I have a feeling that because he's top of mind right now, that's probably why he's number 1. But seriously, this is a guy who lacks character. He has no integrity whatsoever and has zero moral compass. Now, you might have heard that the slumlord is related to Nancy Pelosi. Somewhat. It's a distant relationship. But I Googled it, and here's what Google says. Newsom is the second cousin, twice removed, of musician Joanna Newsom. Newsom's aunt was married to Ron Pelosi, the brother-in-law of the former Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. So they're not blood related, but as politicians, I guarantee you they are thick as thieves. But there you go. All right, let's get into today's celebrity sleaze. Newly single Jessica Simpson said losing 100 pounds made her feel like she was 21 again. But when you count the stretch marks on Jessica, she's still 44. Rumors continue to swirl that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are married but leading separate lives. Are you buying it? I'm not. Because you have to think after 33 years of marriage, they've got to be tired of sword fighting each other, don't you think? There are also rumors Obama and Jennifer Aniston are currently wrinkling the sheets together. This rumor's been going on forever. His PR says they're just friends. Yeah, friends with benefits. Taylor Swift fans suspect she's about to get engaged to Travis Kelce after she was spotted wearing an infinity ring as she went into the Chiefs game to go park her tickets to watch the game on Saturday against Houston. Typically infinity rings are like promise rings. You know what promise rings are? Promise rings are what guys give girls. It's kind of like a layaway plan at Target, okay? It's where guys put a ring on her to say, yeah, I promised to get you an engagement ring. So you're kind of putting her on hold while you continue to shop. That's what that is. Do you know who's tough, though? Patrick Mahomes' wife, Brittany. I know we talk about her bumping Mahomes with Taylor and all of this stuff, but she's tough. She showed up at the Chiefs game on Saturday less than a week after giving birth to their daughter. Now, I also heard the baby came out sideways, and Brittany didn't scream or nothing. Planes, trains, and automobiles reference there for you. You probably haven't noticed this, but I try to work in a line from a movie every single podcast, just for the fun of it, to see if you notice. But I know, who gives a rat's ass, right? All right, the wait is over. This is the most popular part of the show, the Rat's Ass Podcast email from our Gmail, where you email me your comments, questions, thoughts, and observations, the Rat's Ass Podcast at gmail.com. You can also email us on the link on the website, too, by the way. And I do respond to your emails. No topic is off the table, but the more outrageous and salacious, the better. We've kind of tamed off the outrageous and salaciousness there, so let's ramp that puppy up a little bit. We want some outrageous and salacious emails. I do not read your emails in advance. My producer, Fleabag, say good morning to Fleabag. He forwards me your name, where you're from, and rewrites them so I can respond rapid fire and on the fly. All right, Bren G. from Concord, New Hampshire. You said you were a Virgo Libra cusp. What is a cusp? Okay, Bren, you're probably a little young and wet between the years, huh? Okay, a cusp is when you're born the first day of a new zodiac sign. You still may have some traits of the previous zodiac sign. So for me, it's Virgo Libra. To give you an example, some famous Virgo Libras, cusps, include Bruce Springsteen, Jason Alexander. We all share the same birthday. Yeah, George Costanza. I share a birthday with George Costanza. But that's what a cusp is. Tony M., Brooklyn, New York, says, a quick observation for you. I've been reading about your fires in Los Angeles, and you're all victims of piss-poor management by your politicians. No shit. Especially your fucking sleazeball Governor Gavin Newsom. He's a chump and has got to go. All right, Tony's from Brooklyn, so I guess I should read that better. Your fucking sleazeball Governor Gavin Newsom. He's a chump. He's got to go. Okay. Yeah, I agree. There is an effort to recall the bastard right now. But here's the deal. We're going to spend millions of dollars on this recall, getting signatures. And I think you need roughly about 1.6, maybe 1.7 million signatures. It's 12% of whatever his total vote count was when he won the re-election. And here in California, they just keep, finding people against something until they win. Okay, this is why it took them 3 weeks to solve some of the races where Republicans were winning. They just waited until they could stuff the ballot box. All of a sudden, Democrat won. So, I think we would waste a lot of money on this. It would take several months, and he's in his last. He's not going to be reelected. He can't run again. So he's a lame duck governor, by the way. And by the time we would recall the guy, we're talking what? He'd still be out of office anyway in 6-7 months. That's like, what's the point? But from a political standpoint, to be able to say that he was impeached, or not impeached, he was recalled twice, would be a fabulous, fabulous campaign against him as he runs for president in 2028, because he will. All right, Blair D. from Dundee, Scotland said, I had my first one-night stand, had my first one-night stand 2 weeks ago, and the son of a bitch hasn't called me. Should I call him? Blair, it was a one-night stand. I mean, you guys told each other a bunch of lies, you slept together, and I always say this, no response is a response. Should you call him? If you got a phone number, why not try? But nothing like saying, I'm easier than you thought, than a follow-up call from a lady to a guy. All right, let's see. Wade F., Norfolk, Nebraska, said, are you concerned about the future of our democracy? Hell no. I'm not worried about that. I mean, my God. The Democrats just tried to install Kamala Harris as our president. Okay, she had no qualifications, and they tried to install her because they wanted a puppet to carry on, like Joe Biden, we found out, was a puppet for 4 years, for people running around and doing all kinds of chaos. This is why you've had a bad 4 years. So do I worry about democracy? Here's what I want you to remember. When the Democrats talk about democracy and fear for our democracy, what they're saying, you got to always read between the lines with these people, okay? They're telling you they're worried about the survival of the Democratic Party. That's it. Nothing more. Just remember that. All right, Tim B. in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Dude, love the podcast, but I have to ask, where do you come up with your advice for women? First of all, I'm glad you dig the podcast, Tim. Personal experience. It's all personal experience. Plus, when I was on the air, I did a morning show for 20 years and always had psychologists on the air. One time, Dr. Ruth was a regular on my show. And if you remember Dr. Joy Brown from WOR in New York, she was also a regular on my show once upon a time. So kind of by, living through their advice, my own personal experience, that's where I come up with it. Karen G., Fairbanks, Alaska, said, you said you were going to tell us a radio tale about a bruised penis. How much longer do I have to wait? Karen, I spaced that story altogether. My fault. For the younger people, my bad. Okay, fine. I'll tell it right now while we're on the subject. I'm one of these folks that, okay, bring it up now. Let's get it done now. I don't dilly-dally. This goes back to when I was working at a radio station in Steubenville, Ohio. There was an old news guy there named Scott. I'm going to leave the last names out to save these folks some embarrassment, although Scotty has passed away since. But Scott was probably, I'm going to say he was in his late 70s at the time. And Scott had a reputation of just being a real hard-ass newsman. You could not mess him up on the air. And believe me, we as jocks, it was our life's mission to screw with the news guy so they would screw up on the air. They would mess up. They would flub. They would do something to make them look bad. So it was our mission to always try and make them look bad. Scott was infallible. We tried so many pranks on this guy, and he never missed a beat. I blew up an M80 in the studio once. Scott didn't miss a beat. Continued on with the newscast. When I turned his mic off, he had, what the fuck is your problem, man? Don't ever do that again. And I was thinking, this guy was a World War I vet. I better take his advice. But we constantly messed with him. We would light his copy on fire. And he would just put it out and continue on. He would ad-lib the news story. Infallible, because he wrote it, so he knew it. But every time we tried to prank him and it didn't work, it made us want to come up with new and different ways to do it. We were determined to make Scott look bad on the air, that he finally flubbed up. So I'm on the air one day, and Greg, our program director, decides, and keep in mind, HR departments did not exist at this time. And a lot of the guys at the station were all men. There were no ladies around when this happened. Greg walks into the studio, and Scott is sitting down, and he's reading the newscast. Greg decides to take off his glasses. He drops his pants, puts his glasses on his penis, and lays it on the table for Scott. And Scott sees it out of the corner of his eye. Without missing a beat, Scott slammed it on the table. Greg hopped out of the studio with his pants down around his ankles. Scott did not flub the story, did not mess up. He crushed Greg's penis with his fist and continued the newscast. The man is a legend. The man is a legend. Greg has never been the same since, but we didn't prank Scotty anymore after that. So there you go. That's the story. Hope you enjoyed it. Cooper Q, Perth, Australia. You don't sound like a religious fella. Are you a religious fella? God, Cooper, I hate talking about religion, but I always say no topics off the table, right? My religious beliefs come from being a young man where I grew up in the Baptist church. Okay, anybody that grew up Baptist will know what I'm talking about here. I observe, and I'm a very observant individual. I guess it's something that I developed as a young man. I notice everything. Like, for an example, when they were putting the wreaths on yesterday, Donald Trump is listed at 6'3", J.D. Vance at 6'2", but yet J.D. was 2 inches taller than Donald Trump. And I'm thinking, why is that? Is J.D. wearing lifts? I notice shit like that. But getting back to this, I would notice the guy who was heading up our Baptist church. I grew up next door to a frat house, the TKE frat house. I would notice he would come by during the college parties and hang out. He would always be lifting beer, taking shots of whiskey. Now, again, this wasn't considered to be a sin, I don't think. But he preached about not doing those things on Sunday. But he was out doing them, and I saw him doing those things. Saw him one time having sex in the back seat of a car with a girl, not his wife. So, I kind of drew the conclusions, Cooper, that, you know what? it's probably not a good idea to follow people who have the same capacity for sin as me. Now, I don't know what age I was when I determined that, but I can tell you that I have faith and that I continue to have a one-on-one relationship with the man upstairs. And my way of thinking is, if I die and I did it the wrong way, I'll pay for it then. But I just am not going to follow people, humans, who have the same capacity for sin as me, to lead me down a path of righteousness that might or might not be the right one. There's so many different religions out there. I say, you know what? Let's cut out the middleman here. Let's just have a one-on-one relationship. And I can tell you, I've been through some things in my life where I do believe and I have faith, and I think that the one-on-one relationship is working. And I can tell you some stories about that. But Fleabag, how much time do we have left? I'd like to keep the podcast within 20, 25 minutes. I can't count fingers, Fleabag. Come on. All right, just hold up a thing. Fleabag, by the way, is on FaceTime. He's not in the studio with me. So I can only see him out of the corner of my eye on the screen. And that's why you don't hear Fleabag, by the way. It's because I don't have the capabilities yet of bringing him on live. And one day we'll do that. We'll bring on the Fleabag so you can scratch him a little bit. All right. Well, that's the story, Cooper. I don't know whether you're consider me a religious fellow or not, but there you have it. Keep sending your emails with your thoughts, observations, comments, and questions to ratsasspodcast@gmail.com, and I'll give you my 2 cents that makes no sense on the next episode. I do got to take off, though, but I do have one more thing for you. Did you know during mating season, lions have sex 20 to 40 times a day for multiple days in a row? So now you know why they're the frickin' king of the jungle. And it also explains why Clarence was probably cross-eyed. There's some boomer humor for your ass there. All right, shout-outs to Fort Wayne, Indiana, Dayton, Ohio, Anaheim, and San Diego, California. Thanks for listening. Around the world in Montreal, Canada, Liverpool, England, home of the Beatles, and Brasilia, Brazil. I believe that's the capital, Brazil, too. But thanks for listening. Wherever you do listen, thanks for taking the time. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Rat's Ass Podcast. Make sure you check out the new ratsasspodcast.com to check out our social media, listen to the podcast, check out our blog, where you can also find out who made it on my NBA Mount Rushmore and who's made our dumbass list for 2025 so far. Oh, yes, we've got a dumbass list. Check that out. And I promise you, there will be more. We'll do this again on Wednesday, January 22nd. Take care of each other, and thanks for listening to the Rat's Ass Podcast, a division of Mark Elliott Media in partnership with the Ozone Podcast Group.